magic happen. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your Sunday to join us. This is the author, Andrew Norton, and this is our next edition of All About the Authors. We do this every second and fourth Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My co-host, Celebrity Source Tyra Satai, should be joining us momentarily. You know how that goes with technology and signals. I know I was having, true story before we get into it, ladies and gentlemen. We already had everything set up, and I was logged in, and I'm like, where is everybody? And, technology has its things, but thankfully we're able to get everything set up, so we appreciate your patience and understanding. To best enjoy today's show, definitely make sure to check us out at on the Facebook page for author Andrew Norton. It is public, and we encourage you to share because we usually have two wonderful authors from all across, the Southeast, the East Coast, the West Coast, and what have you. Not only, and we want to make sure that you're aware of the great things that they're doing. So I'll talk about my items a little bit later, but again, make sure to share and support. We always, like I said, we make sure to do this because we want to make sure, hey, look, there's some great authors. I feel like I'm a great author, but you know what? I know there's other great authors out there. We want to make sure that people are aware of their work so you can make sure to support them because then again, the topics that we all cover, if it's not a fit for you, chances are it's a fit for somebody that you know. So again, we want to make sure that we're having this platform out here. And for those of you who are out there viewing, if you're aware of different authors that are like, hey, you need to go ahead and make sure to go ahead and give them a shout, please make sure to connect with me. Your best ways to connect with me are on Facebook at the page Author Andrew Norton, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Author Ace Norton. And you may email me at authoracenorton@gmail.com. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get into our first author and to give you a little bit of backstory. As many of us know, book festivals are wonderful experiences because you have the people there like to read, you get to connect with other authors. So I'm out here at the Mississippi Book Festival. I want to say it was back in 2018. Well, I did the Mississippi Book Festival 2017, 2018, 2019. And this wonderful young lady came by my table and talked and chopped it up. Chop it up, for those of you that don't know what it means, we're taking time to talk, kick back, whatever, encourage. And she's been kind enough to be on, the distribution list and all that type of stuff. And this is from the proverbial, you never know who's out there watching you. So I say maybe about 2 weeks ago, I get this wonderful email from this young lady, and we got to talking. And here's someone who is very passionate when it comes to family and career, but also with the work that she's doing. And we just got to talking, and here we are today. So our first guest is Miss Christine Phipps Davis, representing Jackson, Mississippi. Miss Davis, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing awesomely blessed. How are you doing?
Hey, doing great. Like I said, other than that hiccup with technology, I'm like, thank goodness I learned how to type. I know an author doesn't know how to type. That could be a big problem. But
yes,
it's and everything. Now, you're based out of Jackson, Mississippi. Is that where you're originally from?
I am born and raised right here in Jackson.
Born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi, and I hope you and your family are doing extremely well. Could you give our viewers a little bit of your backstory as to how you gravitated from all the great things you're doing now to adding author to your title?
Oh, wow. Well, it's amazing how things happen in life, and you take the steps that God gives you to take. And you never, ever even think or dream that your life is going to end up like it is. I started out working at a pharmaceutical company, left there to take care of my son, and then started up my own business, virtual assistant business. And then when my father passed, I had already started working on a coloring book. And then when he passed, my baby came up to me and asked me to color. And I told her no the first time, and she came back with colors in hand, color markers and markers. And the coloring book in hand, and I told her, okay, baby, come on, let's go on and color. And then from my experience of where it removed me from inside of myself, where I was feeling sad and, unsure what I was going to do because my dad had passed away, and to actually feeling like I had hope, I had a way out, life had kind of switched just from me coloring. So I repented. I was like, Lord, I'm sorry. I got selfish. I'm thinking about Chris. I'm not thinking about your children. I'm thinking about what your children need. And I went on and finished the coloring book.
Wow. So it sounds like part of it was part interest, part family bonding, but also part therapy. So who knew that a coloring book, that type of thing, could serve that many purposes? So walk us through the continued evolution of the coloring book. So it was started for one reason, but it really covered multiple areas. What were some of your next steps?
It did. It was started because kind of like a personal healing, where I noticed that I was the saddest I had ever been. I felt more down than I had ever been. And it's like I could not dig my way out. And it happened, my father passed right around Christmas. So it's kind of like me and my family were in this place where we missed Christmas, because my dad died on December 18th. We buried him on December 21st. So we were in this place of just sadness. And right now, I feel like a lot of people are in a place of sadness because of COVID. They've lost their job, they're separated from their family. The world is just so lonely. And when I colored and I felt that, I felt lonely because my daddy was gone. And to me, my daddy was one person who really understood Chris. We could talk and he would tell me, I understand where you're coming from, but let's look at it this way. Well, other people would be like, you're in La La Land. What are you thinking? What are you doing? But my daddy understood me. My daddy knew where I was coming from. My daddy took the time to listen and to actually feel. So the one person I felt like really knew me was gone. We were separated. So to me, I was like, okay, so who am I going to talk to? What am I going to do? Who do I have? But once you get out of that place of sadness, a place of being broken, a place of darkness, you can see that there's a lot of other people in your life. There's a lot of color that's in your life. There's a lot of beauty in your life, even when you're in a place of sadness. So the coloring book is kind of like you said, it's healing. It gives you a place to refocus. It gives you a place to go in peace, get peace, find peace. And there's also peace scriptures in there. So while you're coloring in the line, focus on the beauty of the colors, focus on the beauty of life. And so what I'm doing now, I had a neighbor whose husband passed away, and she's I believe in her 70s. So she's got the coloring book, and she's told me several times that she has trouble sleeping at night. She cannot sleep because her husband is not laying there beside her. So she's at that place right now where there's no peace. She can't find her rest. But what she does, she gets that coloring book out and she colors and she focuses on the coloring and not her sadness, not her darkness, not her loneliness. And it's actually giving her peace enough where she can go to sleep at night.
And that's great that you're saying that, because sometimes it's like we know that there's some things that are, quote, irreplaceable. And we have to understand it's not going to be exactly the same, but we can redirect that energy into something constructive. And in this case, that constructive outlet is coloring. And to me, I hear art, how we say art's the imitation of life. Art's capturing that moment. So in that moment, people can go ahead and have that constructive release of what they're feeling. Or in that moment, they can have that where am I trying to go type thing. And we know art is what it is. What's beautiful to one might be a little bit offbeat to another, but art is so open to interpretation. And it's great that through your coloring book, you're allowing not only, because we think coloring book, we automatically think young people, but guess what? Like you said, there are adults who you might need to sketch something. You might need to do something.
Mhm.
Sometimes you don't want to put everything into words. Now,
Mhm.
walk us through since then with all the great things that are coming on with your coloring book. Walk us through some of the spaces and places you've been able to get your book, as well as the people that you're seeing that you're able to help out.
Okay. Well, currently, I have a local bookstore that has a more of our wiser generation who comes in. And one thing that they were telling her that they were looking for was a coloring book because they felt like that coloring book would give them something to focus on, something to, somewhere to go is more peaceful, less lonely. So I have it in a local bookstore, Milestone Bookstore in Pearl. I also have in a nursing home here in Jackson where, once again, the wiser generation are lonely. They are not at peace. They are, because a lot of times they are in locations of where people put them there, families put them there, but they don't think about them. You know, they put them into like a home and then they think that they're safe. And sometimes they don't even get phone calls. Their family doesn't even come and check on them. So they're lonely. They feel neglected. They feel like, you know, they don't have anywhere to belong. So the coloring book is there, and the residents actually love it. And they said that it's kind of like their piece. It's their time to kind of focus on something else, to go somewhere else. It's also on the Amazon and Target and Walmart.com where you can go online and get it. And I've had a pastor in the local area that works with youth that are going through, and she has purchased a coloring book for her youth. And same thing, it's like they're teenagers, young teenagers, you know, older teenagers about to go into adulthood. And it's the same thing. It's like everybody who is doing the coloring book see it as an escape, as a way out, as, you know, somewhere to refocus, somewhere to give hope, somewhere to give peace.
And that's great. Now, share with our viewers what's the title of the coloring book. And again, I know you just shared it, but please remind people where they can purchase.
Okay. The name of my coloring book is 60 Days of Peace and Color. And it's 60 mandalas with peace scriptures from the Bible and also quotes. And you can visit my website, christinephipsdavis.org. And I also get it from Amazon, Target, Walmart.com, and BarnesandNobles.com.
Okay. And in addition to your website, what are some other ways that readers and viewers can engage with you?
They can contact me on Facebook, Christine Phipps Davis. Um, Also, I have a business Facebook page, Christine Davis, if they can't get that. But Christine Phipps Davis or Christine Davis on Facebook. Also on Instagram is Christine Phipps Davis. And they can email me, christinephipsdavis.org.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, first off, I'm glad we are able to figure out that technology piece to get you on. And then, second, I tell you what, and this is what we love about doing this, there's always a story behind the story. And the fact that you shared the
Mhm.
backstory and you showed that there are some things, there are positive outcomes even in adversity. I think a lot of times
Mhm.
we do forget that. Like we say the light at the end of the tunnel, those types of things. And you were able to redirect your energy. And in doing that, not only did you help you, but you helped so many people, family and beyond. So, for viewers out there who might be going through something, we sympathize and we empathize, but we're also providing a constructive pathway to redirect your energy. And in doing
Mhm.
that, there's some great things that can come from it. So, of course, you're going to need to stick around because we're going to do this roundtable at the end. But I
Okay.
definitely thank you for being on here. And in being on here, I tell you what, writing, there's such a positive and creative energy. And when I talk about Cleve Bush, when I think about presence, like that voice seems like it's booming from the mountain, like I'm Cleve. but when you peel back the layers, seriously, when you peel back the layers from just getting a little bit familiar with him, he's a man of conviction, of confidence, of presence, using his gifts for something bigger than just him. So, Cleve, we are so excited to have you on. How are you doing this afternoon? Okay, Cleve. Okay, are you there, Cleve? How are you doing
I'm
this
doing
afternoon?
wonderful. How you doing, Mr. Norton? And thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having us. I mean, for being a part of what we're doing today. So I think,
I'm doing fine, Mr. Norton. Thank you for having me.
okay, great, great. And so if you can, Cleve, we're getting a little thing. Okay, there we go. Because we had a little bit of a delay on our end. Cleve, could you let our viewers know where you are based out of?
I'm based out of Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay, Columbia, South Carolina, the Palmetto State. So, Cleve, walk us through a little bit about your writing journey. What would you say was the moment where you pivoted into adding on author as one of the many great things that you do?
Okay, well, the moment I pivoted it into writing is I was incarcerated for 20 years. I was young, I was angry, and I met some good people during the stint of my incarceration. And I met a Muslim guy, and he came and he watched me for a while, and we talked. And early one morning, he came and he said, "Man, have you ever written poetry?" I was like, "No." So he was like, "Listen, I'm angry too, and I understand." He was like, "But poetry helped me release some of that pressure that I'm going through." And I wrote my first poem, and I noticed it was therapeutic. And from that moment, I continued to write. I continued to write and just centered my poetry around the things that I was feeling. And we created a group at the prison that I was at to put on plays for the inmate population. And that actually got me into writing a novel. I was an avid reader, and I had read plenty novels, autobiographies, everything that I can get my hands on to read. And I started writing, and I just started writing. And this is actually the second novel that I've written, Identical Strangers. But I learned so much from writing the first one. I learned how to build my characters and just take my time and try to create my story and make everything mold and gel together. And this is where I began my journey writing.
And I want to revisit what you said about poetry. People don't understand, just like a song lyric gives that song its energy, poetry almost operates the same way. When you started delving deeper into poetry, what would you say were some of the biggest takeaways that you have that you felt helped you with going to this next step of writing?
Some of the biggest takeaways from poetry is just learning how to put out a message and how you was feeling, through the different lines and stanzas of poetry to make it all correlate and make sense. And as even in any writing that I do, I always add poetry that I do write, for the simple fact that, when I started reading, poetry was like just a part of the literary world, so long ago. And I feel like that we've gotten away from poetry, and we don't understand the release valve that it can be. So I try to create poetry to go along with each book that I write, just to keep the art of poetry in motion.
Okay. So, and you said a lot right there. So, and I know you said you have two books. Walk us through some of the key themes and concepts that your first book covers, including the title of your first book.
The first book, although it's non-published as of yet, it's called Poverty's Paradise. And as I sat and I watched, originally I'm from Chicago, Illinois. And as we watch the news, and one thing we learn about big cities is the gang culture. And, you know, I identify with that gang culture. And as I watched the culture gravitate and just see how it has taken root and taken effect in our everyday lives, and people really don't understand. Chicago, it's considered a culture because it's a part of our everyday lives. You're going to be affected by it. You know, you're going to know where you can go, where you can't go, who you can mingle with, who you can't mingle with. But when I moved to South Carolina, there was no gang influence. And I watched it happen over the years and permeate the streets of South Carolina. And, you know, I just want to write about the situation, how the underlying issue is, no matter what you go through in life, there's always somebody who will either take you down or build you up, whether it be a best friend, a girlfriend, a wife, a mother, a sister. You know, there's that one person in life who can push you to be all you can be or totally destroy you, because that's just the type of bond and relationship that you have. And I feel like, you know, in the gang culture and that gang mentality, that's what happens. You know, we bond and we kind of gravitate towards something, and, you know, people use it for either good or bad. And, you know, we fall into that trap, and a lot of times we don't know when to separate the two. And my second novel is Identical Strangers. It's about a lot of things that I've been through. I deal with systematic pressures. I deal with military policy. I deal with child welfare services. I deal with the push and pull of good and evil. And in today's time, especially with COVID going on and Black Lives Matter and so much civil unrest, you know, I think that it speaks of the times, but it also gives the entertaining twist to kind of remove your mind from the everyday struggle of what life has become at this point in time.
It really sounds like with this second one, and the word I like to use is pivot. And it's one of those things where you acknowledge stuff is going on, but we're going to pivot and redirect in another thing so you can see the broader picture. Like, instead of just having the blinders on, let's expand the blinders.
Yes, sir.
Now, let me ask you this, because, again, one of the key themes that we're seeing, you know, not only in our talk, but the previous talk is therapeutic. That's one of the words that seems like it's bubbling up. What would you say to remind our viewers really about both pieces that you've done? And even to kind of revisit again the poetry that you've done. What do you think makes reading and writing so therapeutic?
Reading in itself is therapeutic because reading is not as easy as we think it is. It's not just picking up, being able to pronounce words, because we can do that all day. But when you can pick up and you can pronounce the words and get a meaning to where you can apply them for yourself, that's the moment that reading becomes therapeutic, no matter what content you're reading. It also, as you're reading and writing, it sparks the mind. The mind can take you on a journey that we don't quite understand. You know, you always hear that the mind is the most powerful tool that the body has. And until you're isolated, sitting, reading a book that happened miles and miles away, and you're able to get so deep into the book to where your mind projects you into the middle of the situation, then you understand that reading can take you outside of your circumstances. And no matter how bad your circumstances is, you know, you can read something, you can find something entertaining, and it'll almost make it seem as if the problem doesn't exist.
Wow, that's some pretty powerful stuff. And I think you said a lot right there. We talk about the power of reading. You tapped into some of those different elements of what makes reading so powerful and so positive and really so constructive. Before we bring Miss Phipps Davis back in, could you let our viewers know again the titles of your books, where your book or books are available, and the best ways that our viewers can stay connected with you?
Identical Strangers is my breakout novel, and it's being published as we speak. And this is the cover, and I'm actually proofreading this for to give the final consent to go ahead and publish. But I'm at www.authorclevebush.com. That's my website. Um, Cleveland Bush is my Facebook. You know, it's just my name. Um, Attached to my Facebook is my author's page. So, you know, if you want to respond to me or send a message, I'll get back to you, and you know, we can stay in touch through those avenues.
Well, I tell you what, you guys, this is why we love doing what we're doing here, because there's some there's some really, really solid people, some really, really powerful stories that are going on. So we're going to have Christine, if you can jump back on. I know she was so kind to mute herself. You know how technology is. Christine, great to see you back with us. I'm going to throw a couple questions at the both of you. Let's see, one question, and we did talk about it, but just for viewers out there, especially for some viewers who are like, oh, there's so many people writing, and are people really going to pay attention to my story, blah, 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 or I'm not as big as other people. What would be something that you would want to say to our viewers to encourage them that if you have it in you, go ahead and put it out there? Let's start with Christine.
Well, I think the biggest thing to remember is that we're not here for self. The things that we go through, our experiences, our life, somebody is going through something similar or just like you. And when you make it through, when you get through, somebody needs your encouragement to keep going. Somebody needs your experience of what you've been through to keep going. So whenever we write a book, just like, Mr. Bush was saying, there's experiences that he's gone through that other people are going through and they don't think they can make it. Just like there's a lot of, people have lost family members because of COVID or, for other reasons, and they don't think they can go through it. And they're turning to the wrong resources. They're turning to alcohol. They're turning to drugs. They're turning to bad influences. So people knowing, I got through, the first man I ever loved knew, the first guy that ever understood me, I made it through. I made it through coloring, something like coloring helped me to get through. It helped me to see that there was still beauty, that there was still life. Even though my daddy was gone, I still had beauty in my life. I was still able to make it. And like even with Mr. Bush, with his experiences, him sharing, being bold enough to share his testimonies and how he survived it. There's somebody out there that needs to know, because they're about to make the wrong decision. And a lot of times when we share our story, we give our gift, we give our purpose, those people are walking that tightrope, and they could fall to the left or they could fall to the right. And if they can hear your story and you can help them to fall the right way, and that's just my thing. Is like, it's important to remember it's not about you.
Okay. Cleve, how would you respond to that?
I believe that in our journey in life, we forget about the simplicities of life, the small things that mean so much. Problems are universal. We are unique individuals, but yet we all go through problems. And just like Miss Phipps said, just the simple act of coloring, you know, as I heard her speak, you know, it kind of took me to a place, to my childhood, of how much, you know, children just like to sit down and color and find ways to express themselves. And we just don't understand just self-expression given to somebody else that's going through a problem similar, you know, to what you've been through. It doesn't have to be identical, but similar. And you being able and to have the power to express yourself, you know, it gives the next person that cross those stumbling blocks, it gives them the sense that, you know, there's hope.
Definitely, definitely. Here's another question that I've thought of, and I'm sure, and I know I get it, and I'm sure y'all are getting it too. Next steps, and I'll start Cleve off with this one. You've got the piece that you're getting finalized, your other piece that you're revisiting to make sure it goes from unpublished to published. What topic or topics are amongst the pool of different things that you want to pursue with your next book?
My next books, my my next book is one called Junior's Journey, and it's about my father. My father, he was a caddy. He caddied in the Masters. He caddied for quite a few people. He caddied for the owner of the Detroit Lions, the president back then, which was George Bush. But as a black caddy, the things that they went through, um, we didn't understand, and we don't see him in today's times. And you know, he and I had, before he passed away, he and I had a lot of conversations, and I was, you know, fortunate enough to watch his journey, you know, through being, you know, a black caddy. And when he started caddying, at best, blacks was considered only good enough to carry a bag, because he was actually also a real good golfer, you know. But in that day and age, you know, it just wasn't room for black golfers. And you know, just watching his whole mentality and mind frame, and I just want to bring his story and so many black caddies, especially that then passed on. I want to bring their story to the forefront. So that's a project that I'm working on. I'm fine tuning. Um, so I look forward to presenting that to the world pretty soon.
Okay, awesome. Ms. Phipps Davis, next steps. Where do you see yourself amongst the pool of different things? What would you say would be one of your next the next topics that you want to try to cover?
The next topics I want to cover is faith. I want to cover faith because I feel like a lot of people lose faith in themselves. They lose faith in God. They lose faith in others because of the things that they've gone through. So if I can help people to just hold on to their faith that you're going to get through the situation, that life is going to get better, you have everything that is inside of you that you need to get through whatever you're going through. So and I was actually just telling my husband where I've started looking for the next designs, because like my book is full of mandalas. So I'm looking for more mandalas that people can color, but then they can learn about faith. You know, like I have everything in me that I need. I don't, you know, we all need other people, but sometimes you have to have the faith in yourself that you can get through something. You have to know that you know, and you're a knower, that you have what you need to get through it. So if I can help somebody just to keep going forward, just to keep going straight, just to have a little faith in themselves, then I feel like one of my purposes in life has been met.
Well, I tell you what, those are two both, you know, very engaging topics. And in regards to what you said, Cleve, it part of your motivation, it's talking about narratives that either are not talked about or not talked about enough. And then Christine, when you talk about faith, you can never run out of that because, again, like you both said, people are going to respond to your voices, and people are going to respond to the themes that you're covering, how you're in empowering people to discover and rediscover. so many different things. Those are very, very important. Those are very, very important pieces and very, very important, like I said, themes, ideas, concepts that you all are talking about. Um, as we get ready, and I'll close out, but as we get ready to wind down, Cleve, what's one of the many insights all of us get when we write? Cleve, what's one, I'll say, seed that you'd like to plant with our viewers? So whether they're fellow authors, readers, people who are starting to get into reading, what would you say would be one, I'll say, piece of advice or nugget or words of wisdom that you want to leave with our viewers?
The one thing that I want to leave with our viewers is literacy. It's been said that the average incarcerated person reads on the 4th grade level. And we're actually, just as a whole, we're falling by the wayside in the realm of literacy. We have to find a way to create understanding of everything that we go through, and the more that we push the literacy rate, I think the more that we help substantiate who we are as a people, and just understanding everything that's going on around you is so important, because there's a lot going on, and there's also a lot that we don't understand because our parents didn't understand it, or our parents' parents didn't understand it. It's almost like the generational curse, and I think that's what literacy will do. It will break that generational curse that we've all been faced with during our lifetime.
Okay. And Cleve, remind our viewers again your books and the best ways to stay connected with you so people can support you as you continue with your writing journey.
My book that's currently in the stage of being published now is called Identical Strangers. I'm in the proofreading stages, and it should be available the end of September. My website is www.authorclevebush.com. My Facebook is Cleveland Bush. You can just type me up, and my author's page is attached to my Facebook account. And you can stay with me through social media, Instagram, authorclevebush.com. It's authorclevebush.com will get you to me in some form or fashion, and I'll be sure to respond. And I appreciate the support, and I appreciate you having me today.
Hey, I tell you what, I appreciate you taking and making the time. When you reach when it was suggested to me, I know, hey, Juva, I see you on there. I had to give her a shout. She was one of our guests last month, probably one of our more powerful. All of them are powerful. That one right there, if you didn't catch our show the second Sunday of August, you need to go back and look at it. But Cleve, thank you, and definitely want you to stay on. Christine, same question. What's one piece of wisdom, insight, encouragement, seed planting that you'd like to leave with our viewers for today?
I guess the biggest thing is that you have everything inside of you that you need. Don't go looking to other people for your purpose. Don't go looking to other people for your dreams. They're yours. And everything that you need to accomplish in this world, as long as you keep the faith in others, yourself, and God, and you keep the peace within you of God, and the peace no matter what's going on around you, that you can make it. You have everything that you need to make it.
Awesome. Definitely words of encouragement, not just for a Sunday, but just really about any day. I know it's like, hey, there's still Sunday service going on, but you know what? Each and every day you need to, like my grandmama say, you need to go sit down somewhere, and you need to remind yourself of who you are and whose you are.
That's right. That's right.
Remind our viewers again the title of your book, the best ways to stay connected with you.
Okay, the title of my book is Color with the Word, and here it is. You can visit my website, www.christinephipsdavis.org. You can visit me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook under Christine Phipps Davis, or Christine Davis, which is my word. You can also visit my website ChristinePhippsDavis.org, or just hit me up via email or social media. Also on Instagram is Christine Phipps Davis.
Okay, and I tell you what, I appreciate you, for lack of a better term, researching and observing the last couple of years before you're like, hey, now's the time to give him a shout. So, hey, I feel grateful and thankful you thought enough to be like, I'm going to email him. And I know I'm going to give a shout to Dr. Latangela Crossfield. I know I'm behind on getting that paperwork in. I'm going to get it in. Hey, so you got to, but I appreciate you just following and keeping track and being like, hey, hey, what's up? And it's like, all right, here's what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and wind us down. And like I said, this is what we do every second and fourth Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yes, author is one of the hats that I wear, but part of it is sharing your platform, because there are some great people out there. Number one, there's some great storytellers that are out there. There's some great authors that are out there. And if we don't share and talk about them, folks aren't going to know, or it might take them longer to know. So I'm very grateful to both of our guests that felt enough about what we're doing here to be like, yeah, let's come on and see what happens. And I know my co-host, somebody's first Tyra Satai, texted, and we know how technology is with signals and whatnot. So Ty's written 2 very powerful books, one of which was real critical and real important for me getting on my writing journey. So shouts to Ty. We know you out there, and keep moving ahead with her work. And real quickly, for the books that I've written, the first one, Deeper Than Your Deepest Sleep, Thoughts on Love with Joseph Snorton, is definitely for the poetry readers, and it's looking at love through broader lenses, whether family, community, outreach, people in your life, people no longer in your life. And real briefly, the motivation behind that was, part of it was personal experience. Part of it was knowing how some people feel because they're not feeling something in one realm, they think everything is shot to fill in the blank. You can use your imagination to it. And before people get that desperate and that tense and feel like there's no options, it's like, why don't you take inventory of the people who are in your life? That little kid that jumps on you when you come volunteer, hey, that shows that you have meaning and purpose and value. So many other things. And the title is really derived from discovery of a long lost family member, where I got invited to the memorial service for Dr. Maya Angelou. And when I got my invite, it was the name of Joseph instead of Andrew. So me being a little bit of a prankster, I asked 2 people if there's something they need to tell me, and they looked at me like I was crazy. but through discovery, found this long lost family member. So the poetry is based on the actual conversation with families. So for readers out there who are fans of poetry, Deeper is definitely the fit for you. When you talk about faith, that just struck a nerve when I did 9 Stories of Faith, Volume 1, because what I did behind that one is, like we all said, everybody's dealing with something, but I took it looking at some people are dealing with something each and every day. So, and it's Cleve, I really appreciate you opening up on your experience, because one of the chapters is about actually a family member who talked about his incarceration experience and what he has done since then. And it's not just to talk about faith. Faith is part of it, because the people who are interviewed are across Christianity, Hinduism, and Islam, but it's looking at that faith component. It's looking at what are best practices in health and wellness that can be incorporated. It's about taking inventory of the people around you who are supportive and building you up. Cleve made a strong mention about that, but it's also about changing your way of thinking, which I think all of us on here have been changing our thinking in regards to how do we approach things. So for people out there, like you said, who feel like they're catching it, when you take note of what people are living with each and every day, physical health, mental health, transitioning back after incarceration, things along those lines, it doesn't mean you have to do things exactly like they're doing it, but it lets you know that there are pathways out there. You have to explore and investigate and identify those pathways that are going to build you up and allow you to empower others along the way. Because as you both said, it's not just about us. And then when you talk about narratives, I tell you what, you both have been on point talking about my stuff indirectly, nothing minor. is looking at my 2019 coverage of minor league baseball. And part of it is looking at the talent that's there, but there's so many powerful stories from players. A lot of people don't realize for baseball, you can come straight out of high school and play. So some of the people I was interviewing, these are like, big athletic people, like 18, 19, 20 years old. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But it's really kind of looking at baseball a little bit more intimately. As people know, because of COVID, minor league ball isn't happening this year. But there's so many positive and powerful stories of people who it took them a little bit longer, but they finally got on track, to people who are fast track. And people would think that, okay, the photography, and shouts to Emery Rose Photography for contributing. The photography's part of it, the game action's part of it, but to me, the powerful pieces are the interviews, because there's so many life lessons beyond just the game that these young men in their late teens, early 20s, or even veteran players working their way back, you can apply beyond the game. Another thing that I was able to talk about was the Negro Southern Leagues Museum in Birmingham, Alabama. And people might realize this is the centennial or the 100th year for the Negro Leagues. And the location in Birmingham actually has the largest set of Negro League archives. So I thought it was important to talk about that story. So Cleve, hope you're doing all right. We heard you clearing your throat. But real talk, when Cleve was talking about that narrative about the black caddy and a lot of talented black golfers that, quote, did not get their chance, I think, there's a parallel with me doing that insert on the Negro Southern Leagues Museum, and a lot of players, not only the known players like Jackie Robinson, but little known players like a Larry Doby, who was the second person to come into Major League Baseball, and the second black manager after Frank Robinson. And there's a real personal piece for me on the Negro Southern Leagues Museum with the player Lyman Bostock. So if you do a little bit of research on Lyman Bostock, it's real important. But I think all of us here, number one, the words I would give to you guys, any of the authors we've had before, any of the authors that we will have, and any of the ones that are out there, please keep writing. The narratives that you are sharing are important, and no one can do it like you can, which means there's people that you're able to reach that others might not. But if we have, as you know, cast a wide net, you can catch more. So we need to continue to have that net getting wider. We need to have more people casting that net so we can catch more. So I would encourage that you continue to push forward with what you're doing and move in your purpose. And I thank both of you for being on here. We'll do this again 2 weeks from now. As a reminder to stay connected with me, you can connect with me, Facebook, author Andrew Snorton, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, author A. Snorton. You can email me at authorasnorton@gmail.com. And website, you can go to the business site of asnortonccs.com, click on the menu for author, and I'll have that info. And then it will be a way to go to my author site, which I'm still doing a couple fine-tuning pieces on. And I think there you have it. So to both of you, Christine and Cleve, again, we say thank you. The work that you're doing is amazing. Keep sharing your stories, writing, keep sharing your story in general. And to previous authors that we've had on, thank you for being a part of what we've been doing since May. To future authors, go ahead and get started. Seriously, to future writers out there, get started. And to people who are readers, we're trying to make sure that we add to your library. And for folks that haven't, you need that nudge. Hopefully this is giving you that nudge to go ahead and read, because as our guest said, it can unlock so many doors and you don't know where it can take you and the creativity and things that can be done. So until next time, all of you out there, continue to take very good care. Hey, next steps to your next steps. That's what I'm going to leave with you. Next steps to your next steps. That's we're going to keep it there. So y'all keep making your next steps. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take good care, be encouraged, be of good cheer, and we will look forward to seeing you soon. You just finished watching All About the Authors. Make sure to add All About the Authors 520 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and make sure to check us out. We'll see you.